Legendary sluggers usually had a teammate who'd protect them in the batting lineup. Babe Ruth had Lou Gehrig. Hank Greenberg had Charlie Gehringer. And Jimmy Fox had one of baseball's most underrated and overlooked sluggers, Al Simmons. This is the story of Al Simmons, a two-time batting champion and a key member of the Philadelphia Athletics' 1920s baseball dynasty. Aloysius Szymanski was born on May 22, 1902, to Polish immigrants in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Tired of people mispronouncing his name, he later changed his last name to Simmons. The Milwaukee Brewers of the now minor league American Association signed him in 1922. After the 1923 season, Connie Mack bought his contract. He got the nickname Bucketfoot Al because of his unorthodox batting stance, where he stepped toward third base with his front foot. Simmons hated the nickname. He debuted in the major leagues with the Philadelphia Athletics on April 5, 1924. He was already a full-time player in his rookie year and batted .308 with 8 home runs and 102 RBIs. He stole 16 bases and finished 11th in the MVP voting. He was even better and dominated in his sophomore season. He batted .387 with 24 home runs and 129 RBIs. He led the league in hits with 253 and 392 total bases. His 253 hits remain the MLB season record among right-handed hitters and are 5th most all-time. Simmons placed 3rd in batting behind second-placer Tris Speaker and leader Harry Heilmann. That season, he lost a close MVP voting against Roger Peckinpah. In reality, it shouldn't have been close at all. Peckinpah was statistically worse than Simmons in the major offensive categories. Peckinpah's 2.7 WAR was less than half of Simmons' 6.6. However, Peckinpah's Washington Senators won 96 games to win the pennant. Simmons's Athletics were 8.5 games behind in second place. 1925 was also significant as it marked the debut of Simmons' 3 great teammates, Jimmy Fox, Mickey Cochran, and Lefty Grove. At their peak, Simmons, Fox, and Cochran anchored the offense. Grove, on the other hand, would become one of the greatest pitchers in history. Simmons continued to play well in the next 2 seasons, finishing 5th and 4th in the MVP voting in 1926 and 1927, respectively. In 1927, various ailments limited him to 106 games, but he still had a 5.9 WAR. He also batted .392 but was runner-up to Harry Heilmann's .398, who had acquired the habit of winning a batting title every other year. In 1929, the Philadelphia Athletics, with Jimmy Fox and Simmons, finally won the pennant and overcame the juggernaut New York Yankees led by Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. The totals of the 2 rival duos were similar. Simmons and Fox had identical 7.9 WAR compared to Ruth's 8.1 and Gehrig's 7.5. Simmons had an incredible season. He batted .365 with 34 home runs and a league-leading 157 RBIs. He had 212 hits, 41 doubles, and led the league with 373 total bases. He also placed 3rd in MVP voting. In 1930, Simmons had another great season and finished 2nd in the MVP voting for the second time. After several close runner-up finishes, he finally won his first batting title with .381. He had 36 home runs and 165 RBIs and led the league with 152 runs scored. The Athletics also won the American League pennant and defeated the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series 4-2. The series was notable because each team had 6 future Hall of Famers. In 1931, Simmons won his 2nd consecutive batting title with .390. He had a 7.4 WAR and hit 22 home runs and drove in 128. He finished 3rd in the MVP voting behind his MVP teammate Lefty Grove and Yankee rival Lou Gehrig. The Athletics won a 3rd consecutive pennant and once more faced the St. Louis Cardinals. This time, the Cardinals held off the Athletics in 7 games. Even as his team lost, Simmons did his part as he batted .333 and hit 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and had 8 RBIs. The following season, he led the league in hits with 216 and finished the MVP voting at 9th. In the period covering the first 9 years of his career, Simmons led all major league players in hits and doubles, 2nd in RBIs, and 4th in home runs. But off the field, trouble was brewing. The rise of the Federal League 15 years earlier led to inflated salaries as teams tried to retain their key players. It worked for a while as baseball experienced unprecedented levels of popularity. However, the country remained in economic depression, and many teams were hurting financially. After his team struggled to a 79-72 record to finish third in the American League, Connie Mack decided to sell the contracts of his key players. Simmons was the first to go. At the end of the 1932 season, Connie Mack traded Simmons, Mule Haas, and Jimmy Dykes to the Chicago White Sox for $100,000. A year later, Mack would also trade the remaining core members of the team, Mickey Cochran, Lefty Grove, and Jimmy Fox. Just like what Mack did 2 decades earlier, he broke up another athletics dynasty. This cleared the way for the Tigers and Yankees, who would win the next 10 AL pennants. Simmons played well in his first season with the White Sox. He finished 8th in the MVP voting. It was the 8th and final time he'd finish in the top 10 in the MVP results. In 1934, Simmons batted .344 with 18 home runs and 104 RBIs. It was the 11th straight season where he batted at least .320 and had 100 RBIs. Earlier that season, he became the fastest player to get 2,000 hits. He achieved this in his 1,393rd game. Rounding up the top 5 are Ichiro Suzuki, George Sisler, Ty Cobb, and Paul Wainer. At the end of the 1935 season, the White Sox sold his contract to the Detroit Tigers for $75,000. He batted .327 with 13 home runs and 112 RBIs for the Tigers. But before the start of the 1937 season, the Washington Nationals bought his contract for $15,000. He would bounce around the league before returning to the Philadelphia Athletics in his final season at age 42. He had 3 hits in 6 at-bats in 4 games. Simmons retired with a 68.5 WAR. He batted .334 with 539 doubles, 149 triples, and 307 home runs. He scored 1,507 runs and had 1,828 RBIs. He had an on-base percentage of .380 and a slugging average of .535. He had an OPS plus of 133. Simmons played in 4 World Series. In 19 total games, he batted .329, slugged .658, and had an OPS of 1.037. He also had 6 doubles, 6 home runs, and 17 RBIs. His teams won 2 series and lost 2. Simmons was also a consistent player. He was in the top in the league 10 times in the following categories: batting average, slugging percentage, OPS, total bases, and home runs. He was also a good fielder as he led left fielders in fielding percentage 6 times. After his playing career, he became a coach of the Athletics and later the Indians, but left in early 1951 due to an undisclosed illness. In 1953, he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in his 9th year on the ballot. In 1999, the Sporting News named Simmons as the 43rd greatest baseball player of all time. In 2001, baseball historian Bill James named him the 73rd greatest player and 7th greatest MLB left fielder ever. Simmons died on May 26, 1956. He was 54. Thank you for watching. Where would you rank Al Simmons among the greatest left fielders of all time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing. It helps a lot.